This is Hannibal here with a daily wrestling news update. NXT did a 0.19 rating last night. The lawyer for former WWE head of talent relations, John Laurinaitis, aka Johnny Ace, who also worked as a producer for WWE and was part of management in WCW and All Japan Pro Wrestling. The lawyer has confirmed that WWE was aware of former Diva Search winner Ashley Massaro's allegations that she was raped by someone representing themselves as a U.S. Army doctor during a 2007 public relations tour of military bases in Kuwait. Apparently, according to her affidavit, which by the way, she didn't bring this up till the WWE concussions lawsuit as far as legal filings. She didn't make legal filings about it at the time, to my knowledge, but her affidavit in the concussions lawsuit said that Vince McMahon and Laurinaitis told her not to talk about the incident to help preserve the WWE's relationship with the U.S. military. WWE denied that and said if they'd known about it, they would have, quote, reported it immediately to the base commander, end quote. Edward Brennan, the lawyer representing John Laurinaitis, spoke to Vice about this situation and said WWE management was aware of Mazzaro's claims and they followed WWE protocols. When Massaro died, she died in 2019 via suicide, via hanging. By the way, I interviewed her in 2018, and she seemed like a really sweet girl. And I'm sorry that she passed away like that. Uh, it's a thing in wrestling. People do that, and it's sad. But apparently, the Naval Criminal Intelligence Service started their investigation into it in 2019. Again, this happened in 2007, and closed their investigation in January 2019, June 2019, sorry, January 2020. But the investigation is closed and has not been made public. So someone would have to dig that up. There's also been investigation into a settlement that occurred, I believe, around 2012, related to an affair Johnny Ace had with a WWE female wrestler that led to her being demoted to the development territory when the affair went bad, and then Johnny Ace was demoted to a producer, and Triple H took over his talent relations job for a while. Eventually, Johnny Ace took back over talent relations until he was released when more allegations came out in 2022. But what your guess of who that woman could have been that Johnny Ace had an affair with that got demoted? No one seems to have been able to guess that. Also, speaking of weird stuff that happened, I mean, say what you want about TNA president Scott D'Amore. I mean, he had the horrible idea of making Tessa Blanchard the men's champion, and that was just brutal. TNA ratings are pretty much abysmal at this point. And please tell me who the last star from TNA was that was actually made in TNA. The days of the AJ Styles of the world are gone. But it's funny that I think something more serious may have happened than just your average firing, because TNA is presenting events in Scott D'Amore's hometown of Windsor, Ontario, where they've had their best crowds because of Scott D'Amore's deep connections in Windsor, Ontario. He's been running that town since at least, at the very, very least, the early 90s, possibly earlier than that. But that they would fire him before the shows in his hometown and have to deal with potential backlash in his hometown makes me think something might be something more to this than just they want to have a new president that maybe has better connections um, to run things. But who knows? All I know is I've hated the TNA product under Demore. It became a joke, and I hope it gets better because I want wrestling to get better. Chris, what a fantastic work. There's advantages and disadvantages of WWE. There's new ownership now, so I have no idea what it's like now. All I know is the stories I've heard from doing over 200 shoot interviews, probably well over 200 by this point. Yes, rest in peace, Ashley Massaro. She seemed like a really, really nice person when I met her. Just a happy-go-lucky person, which is probably why she didn't make a bigger deal out of the rape thing, which is just alleged. Just alleged. Uh, Someone says the feds are likely going to arrest John Ace and Vince McMahon this year. They definitely seem to be interested in McMahon. Someone says, we want Scott. That's funny. Again, they rarely even get 0.01 ratings, which is the lowest rating you can get. Can't be making that much money if they're replacing the president, if they've ever made money. I really don't know. They're owned by Anthem Sport. Jordan Grace is a star. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but they did use her in the Royal Rumble. Will she be the next AJ Styles or Samoa Joe? Who knows? She no-showed Great North Wrestling before, so I have no respect for her whatsoever. She was younger in those days, but she was supposed to wrestle Lady Yasmin, who was the most popular female wrestler ever in Great North Wrestling, and she no-showed. What do I think of Dolph Ziggler? He seems like a nice guy. The Doctor, I don't understand that one. TNA should never change the format. Their best years were the early 2000s. The most popular year was around 2007 to 2009. The year I watched it was around 2007, and I'll be honest, I was mainly watching it around that time because they were interested in me in that time to possibly feud with Abyss, and I ended up wrestling with Abyss. And I also promoted their very first Canadian tour around that time in Quebec City, Montreal, and Hull, Quebec. But honestly, it started to really go down bad when they brought Hogan in. That was like it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But at least people were still watching it during the Hogan era. ATF Media, if the feds ever arrest Ronnie Garvin for being too awesome, they better bring huge cuffs because he has hands of stone. I may just have to have Ronnie Garvin back on just to please you, ATF, and read your comments when he's on here. I really like Ronnie Garvin because he's real. A lot of wrestlers aren't real; they're fake, and he doesn't care. He just tells you how he feels. He doesn't give a damn. He's very successful in life outside of wrestling, and just a man's man. I'm not saying I agree with everything on him, but I've met him several times. I interviewed him several times. One of the times was at Raymond Rougeau's house while he was there on a hunting trip, and that was really cool. It's cool when you've never seen Roddy Garvin speak French to see him and Raymond Rougeau because they knew I spoke French too. Not anywhere near their level, but like to just be around Roddy Garvin and Raymond Rougeau talking fluent French when you never think of Ronnie Garvin as a French person. It's weird. I don't know what happened to Scott, but as I said, to fire him before they come to his own town, I don't know. That's weird. Someone says hello to Jack Kilby. Someone checking in from Punxsutawney. Jack Kilby says now Jack Kilby is a true TNA fan, I have to say. He actually went to see TNA shows, and he was a fan during the Asylum years. So there you go. Now I'm never gonna say I was a TNA fan. I liked Abyss. I actually really wanted to have that feud with Abyss. I was a fan of Abyss, and I'm disappointed. By the way, Abyss is a producer now for WWE, and the last time I saw him, I actually wrestled for Impact Wrestling. Um, he was the agent for the match, but he was telling me his body was broken down. Brian, we used Shelton Benjamin in Great North Wrestling once, just before he was rehired by WWE for his most recent run. Great athlete, nice guy, funny guy. I drove him uh, from the Ottawa airport to I think it was Pembroke, Ontario, where he wrestled, which is like an hour and a half drive. And I remember him being very funny in the drive. I do remember also one of the girls I used to have sex with in Montreal told me that he hit on her during the time he was off from WWE, I guess, and doing independent wrestling. But she said she was not into him, but she was surprised um, that he hit on her. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. He had good taste if he was hitting on the same girl that I was banging at the time. Sheldon's a good wrestler, a nice guy. I have nothing bad to say about him. Wish him the best. He's made a lot of money in wrestling. He could probably retire and do whatever he wants right now, or I don't know what's going to happen with Sheldon if AEW would use him, or if they would offer him enough, or if WWE would eventually bring him back. They didn't really do much with him. I can't remember anything that they did with him during his last run, but at least he made a lot of money. Do I think Lex Luger will go into the Hall of Fame while he's still with us? I don't know. Don't know. Grandma Daisy's back. Get well, Virgil. Haven't heard anything from Virgil in a while. Betrayed by Sin agrees when Hogan came in, it was going downhill. It was just so bad when Hogan came in. It just became like the Hulk Hogan show. But at that period of time, Hulk Hogan was no longer cool. And Hogan also would never talk about it on any of his media appearances at the time. And he was still doing media appearances. Um, so that also made the product seem not cool because it's like, what, Hulk Hogan's embarrassed to be talking about it. I did act the one time I did talk on the phone with Hulk Hogan was during the time he was in TNA though. I remember that I forgot all about that till now. Lanny Poffo and I used to be very close friends, and he's like, you should call Hulk Hogan about getting a job in TNA. And I called Hulk Hogan. I was shocked that he answered the phone. Man, he talked to me for maybe 7 to 10 minutes, and he was very nice. He said he was going to recommend me to Bruce Pritchard. And then he actually emailed me a couple times after, and then I think I forget if it was Hogan or Bruce that emailed me back. That I think it was Bruce. They didn't have anything for me, but but I did like having that talk with Hulk Hogan. I remember how shocked I was that he answered his phone. Somebody says, what do I think about The Rock coming back? I think it's great. There's still Vince McMahon's out there. Bill Dundee is another wrestler that keeps it real. I think I might be heading back to the Memphis area sooner than later. I've heard Bill has some health problem, but I've been talking to Sid a lot, and he's not really that technical. He'd rather do an in-person shoot interview with me. So I think I may be heading down to the Memphis area sooner than later to get an interview with Sid, but I also like Tennessee. Grandma Daisy was Abyss Mankind ripoff. Yeah, you could say that. You definitely could say that. I liked Abyss better than Mick Foley, though. I'll be honest with you. I got nothing against Mick Foley. It's just never really I liked him best in WCW as Cactus Jack. He's one of the guy. I liked Steve Austin best when he was Stunning Steve in WCW. I'm weird in that way. I was a fan of Triple H when he was in WCW, more so than when he was in WWE. Robert, yes, it is good for business to have lots of promotions to give wrestlers other choices, and that's why I'm actually happy that they got rid of D'Amore because I'll be honest with you, I'm sure there are a handful of TNA fans, but the product is not over right now. They need to make a change, and if they're changing the name and they want a new product, get rid of the old regime. Mix things up a bit, change things around. So I wish them the best of luck. And I think it's a good move for TNA. Get it more popular so it can become a legitimate choice for wrestlers to go. Betrayed by Sin, like the Abyss. Wade says someone's terrible on the mic. I don't even know who that is. Someone said Abyss versus Umaga would have been a dream. Oh, someone, I guess Shelton Benjamin's horrible on the mic. I really don't know. What's new with Billy Jack? He he's gonna be doing an audio interview with me soon. He's another one that can't figure out the video, and he keeps telling me to come to Oregon. I think I'll be spending a lot of time in the U.S. over the course of the next year, and I would like to hang out with Billy Jack in Oregon. He's been going through some personal issues. Michael, I have two interviews on here with the Warlord. He's a nice guy. Someone says they're better than Bret. I'm not a Bret Hart fan. Casey, I don't think Vince McMahon will be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Andreas, hope someday to get an interview with Jackie Guy to Haas. That would be interesting. I was very good friends with Charlie Haas, and I do know their kids. I haven't talked to Charlie in a while, though. I really hope he's doing okay. He was doing great in SWE, and I don't know how he's doing now. But I also have not been to Texas for a while. But who knows? I'll probably be back. Will I be attending WrestleMania weekend in Philadelphia? Probably not. I'm not a big fan of being around that. I did it a couple times, and I'd rather have at that time I had used David Penzer to do the interviews because I don't like being around. I don't like conventions. I'd rather have someone else do the interviews and sit up in the hotel rooms and edit them. Um, but Penzer was a big time whiner. He whined a lot. A very whiny guy. Did Hulk Hogan ask you what you're gonna do? No, he actually gave me advice, and at that time it was him and I'm the one that got him. It was after that conversation. That would have been in 2012, I think, because then I did meet Hogan the next year, and I got him to have that meeting with Billy Graham. I'm the one that set up their final meeting. And the reason I was able to do that was because I had had that conversation with Hulk Hogan, and he knew who I was. And I believe he had seen the at least one of the interviews I'd done with Billy Graham, because he was aware of who I was when I called. Not my whole career, but he was aware of my whole situation with Abdullah the Butcher. How difficult is it to run a promotion? It's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult and extremely expensive. For the product is good, but people don't watch it for TNA. Yeah, the product is so good that nobody watches it. The doctor works for the betterment of this planet. Someone would love to see me in TNA. Well, it wouldn't have been possible with Scott D'Amore. Would not have been possible. It's more likely to happen now, although I wouldn't hold your breath on that. If I could do work for any of them, it would be AEW. Tony Khan seems like an amazing boss. Hogan copied Billy Graham, yes. R.I.P. Toby Keith. I don't even know who Toby Keith is. I'm not I do like country music, but I don't follow it that closely, but I know he's got a lot of fans, and I'm sorry to hear of his passing. So many people have been talking about it. I guess he did stuff for both TNA, and he was a guest host for WWE once, so there is a wrestling connection there with Toby Keith. Would I want to interview Mick Foley? Sure. That was Piper. She's good. Did Canada rejoice when Michigan won the national football title? I didn't even know that they won. I don't know how many people follow U.S. college football here in Canada. We don't even follow our own college football. And I'm not a football fan. My high school didn't have a football team, sadly. Because when I amateur wrestled, a lot of people told me I would have been a great football player. So it's too bad I never had a football team at my high school. We had rugby though, when we were the rugby champions. I was even forced on the team. Does Gene Snitsky still wrestle? No. I know that Jack Kilby tried to see if he would wrestle for Great North Wrestling and got some type of answer that he doesn't. I do have an interview with Snitsky on this channel. He was a nice guy. Grandma Daisy. Are you Grandma Daisy or Mike B that gives up on asking for Rick Martel? Well, just when you think it'll never happen, Mike, it's going to happen. Which, speaking of that TNA Quebec tour, Rick Martel was at the Quebec City show, but they would not advertise that he was going to be there. And he actually did. He interfered in Johnny Devine's finish back when Johnny Devine, former Stampede wrestler, was also wrestling for TNA. Who's the nicest person in wrestling? Hillbilly Jim would be up there. He was one of the nicest I ever met. What's his name? Al Perez is the only wrestler that ever helped me pack up my camera equipment. He was pretty nice. Jack Kilby, although I wouldn't say that Jack Kilby is a wrestling person, but he's a pretty nice guy. Rick Bassman, I've never had a crossword with, and I've known him a long time, but not everyone has the same experiences with everybody. But I would say to me, Rick Bassman's a very nice guy. Davey Boy Smith Jr. is a nice guy, I would say. There, there's very nice people. Molly Holly, I've met her backstage a bunch of times in WWE. Not that she'd remember me, but she was nice, and I hear from everybody that she's nice. Not that I ever knew her well, but she was very nice. So there's lots of nice people. But definitely Hillbilly Jim is the only wrestler I've interviewed that ever bought me dinner after I interviewed them. Most will try and get you. Most wrestlers are very greedy, arrogant people. It's just the way they are. Al Snow even said it. Most of them are. It's just the way that the business is. But Hillbilly Jim is exactly how he is. Um, Very nice, down to earth. And again, as much as Ric Flair hates Al Perez, I'm sure there's good reason why Al Perez had heat with Ric Flair. Because as I said, for Al Perez to actually help me pack up my camera equipment and help me carry it back to my car, that's just over and above nice. So I can never say anything bad about him. That's a really nice guy. Matt Hardy was nice when I met him. Wade, I really don't think they should do a triple threat WrestleMania main event. Really don't think so. I think I'm more interested in The Rock versus Roman, and then maybe have Rock against Cody later. Roman against Cody, but if The Rock is on the TKO board of directors and has a ridiculous amount of TKO stock, I don't think this is going to be The Rock's last match. It'll be to his benefit to appear more and make the company more profitable.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news.